Hello, second graders. It is time for our very last chapter of Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's Magic. Now, this chapter is yet another very long chapter, and it's going to be broken up into, five different parts, okay? Because it's pretty long. So, this is chapter 8 called the What'll I Do? What'll I doers? So, these are kids who are always saying, well, what'll I do? So, let's see what happens. This was Saturday and the morning of the hike to the big rock. Lee woke up very early, ran into Mimi's room, and jerked back the covers. Hey, Mimi, he said in a hoarse, excited whisper. Get up quick! This is the day we get to go to Big Rock to have the picnic. Mimi turned over and opened her eyes. She said, We can't go to the rock today because it's raining. Oh, it is not, said Lee, running to the window. There's a picture right in the beginning. "'Tis too," said Mimi. "I woke up in the night and heard it. I was so mad I cried." Lee pulled up the shade, and sure enough, a hard spring rain was streaming down the window, pelting the bedraggled tulips and bouncing off the roof like popcorn. Lee was almost 11, but he felt like he liked crying too, because he had been counting on this hike for weeks. So had all the other children. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle was going to take them to the big rock, and they were all going to walk behind the waterfall, climb up on the rock, and take turns looking through Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's very powerful spyglass. Build a big bonfire, roast potatoes and hot dogs. They had planned to leave at 6:30 this very morning. "Oh, how I hate the rain," said Lee, pounding on the window seat. "I'd just like to go and kick it." Mimi pulled the covers up around her chin. "I don't think I'll get up at all," she said. "It'll just be another rainy Saturday with nothing to do." She closed her eyes, so Lee shuffled discontentedly back to his room and got back into bed. He lay and stared at the ceiling and listened to the pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter of the rain on the porch roof and hated everything and everybody in the whole world. When his mother finally called him to breakfast, he came downstairs scowling and hitting at every furniture with his belt. "Put on your belt, Lee dear," said his mother, "and stop snapping it at things. The buckle might scratch something." Lee said, "Gosh, I hate the rain. Why does it always have to rain on Saturdays? Why does it, huh, Mom?" Mrs. Wharton said, "It does seem to it does seem very unfair, I know, to have a nice weather all week long and rain on Saturday. But you'll just have to learn to take the bad with the good. Where's Mimi?" "Oh, she's not getting up," said Lee, picking at the egg and still scowling. Mr. Wharton said, "As long as it's raining and you can't go on your hike, this would be a good time to clean the basement." "Oh, Daddy!" wailed Lee. "What a horrible idea!" "Not at all," said Mr. Wharton. "You must learn to make the best of things in the world, and the best possible thing you can make of a rainy Saturday is a good job on the basement. Something's attempted, something's done, has earned a night's response. Now run upstairs and get up your lazy sister." "Now, Boyd, dear," said Mrs. Wharton, when Lee had left, "let's not overdo things. Remember, this rainy day is a dreadful disappointment to the children, and I hardly think that cleaning the basement, which is really your job, is any compensation for their disappointment." Mr. Wharton said, "The trouble with all children today is that they are spoiled. Now, when I was a boy, if I got an easy job, such as cleaning the basement, I thought I was most fortunate. The cool, dark basement seemed very pleasant to a boy who had been spending hours and hours and hours working on the farm when the sun." Mrs. Wharton said, "Your mother told me that from the time you were 7 years old, your winters were spent in boarding school and your summers in the San Juan Islands, swimming, fishing, and playing on the beach. Just when did you do all this grubbing around in the musty cellar and the hoeing of cabbages in the red hot sun? I spent one summer on my grandfather's farm, said Mr. Wharton stiffly, getting up from the table. And I was only 11 years old, and I worked very hard and enjoyed it. Modern children are all spoiled. Sometime after Mr. Wharton had left the house, Mimi came clumping downstairs wearing her jeans and her mother's blue satin mules, I'm sorry. She was as cross as two sticks, and her hair looked as if she had combed it with an egg beater. I hate the rain, she said, grabbing a piece of toast and spreading it thickly with peanut butter. Mrs. Wharton said, "Please put down the toast and go upstairs and take off my bedroom slippers, comb your hair, and then say good morning." Mimi stuck out her tongue at Lee and clomped back upstairs. Mrs. Wharton sighed. "What a problem this day is going to be," she said to Lee. "This would be a fine day to work on your model airplane." Lee said, "No, I don't wanna." Mrs. Wharton said, "What about fixing your bicycle chain?" Lee said, "I don't wanna." Then Mimi came back in her room in her own came back from her room in her own shoes and combed a little, said good morning, not too sweetly, and then began eating her toast with peanut butter. Mrs. Wharton went out of the kitchen. Lee followed her. He leaned against the drain board of the sink and said, "I hate the rain. What'll I do?" His mother suggested everything she could think of, but he didn't wanna do anything but lean against things and say, "What'll I do?" Pretty soon, Mimi came out and leaned against Lee and said, "What'll I do?" She didn't want to make doll clothes, she didn't want to paint, she didn't want to play games, and most of all, she didn't want to wash the breakfast dishes. Mrs. Wharton got so desperate, she was just about to send Mimi up to clean the attic and Lee downstairs to clean the basement when the telephone rang. It was Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, and she wanted both Mimi and Lee to come over to her house right away. She said she had something very important to tell them, and could they stay for lunch and dinner? Mrs. Wharton said that they certainly could. In fact, she would she would just as leave not see them again until the rain stopped. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle laughed and said that every mother in the neighborhood felt the same way. All right. What do you think is going to happen next? Why do you think Mimi and Lee are going to Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's house? What's going to happen? Make a prediction, and I'll see you next time.